Hello KeenGamers and welcome to another review. This time we have the T248 racing wheel from Thrustmaster. So let's jump straight in. Right off the bat, in terms of design, I can safely say that the T248 is a step up when compared to previous Thrustmaster entry-level wheels. While you might not like the fact that the overall design isn't aiming for realism, you at least get a huge amount of controls that will enable you to control your game almost as if you were using a controller. You have your PlayStation layout of the main face buttons, the D-pad, the L buttons and some additional controls to the sides. As opposed to something like the T150 Pro, the T248 minimizes the PlayStation branding and replaces it with the Thrustmaster logo and this nice sleek black color with some silver details that make it look a bit more premium than it really is. In that regard, the entire outer portion of the wheel features padding and leather-like material that make it somewhat more comfortable to grip and hold and help alleviate sweating during prolonged usage. One very noticeable thing on the face of the T248 is the small screen, which can be used to display a variety of information. For example, you can use it to switch between supported systems or change the force feedback strength, which is convenient if you don't want to fiddle with it on your PC or console. Next, for the few games that support it, the display will actually show you your in-game speed, time, and other game-specific information. While it's visually kinda neat it can do this, the information it can relay will rarely ever be useful, either because you'll be too immersed in the game to even look at the wheel, or the game itself will already be showing most of the information on your TV or monitor. Now as for the build, it should come as no surprise that an entry-level wheel like this is made almost entirely out of plastic. While this can make it feel like a toy when compared to high-end aluminum wheels, it's robust and firm enough to handle even the most intense races and forces you'll exert over it. Furthermore, the relative lightweight also makes it amazingly easy to handle and install. The T248 comes with a fairly reliable clamp that will enable you to fasten the wheel to almost any table, but I'd recommend one that's a bit thicker due to the force feedback. What's great is that you can even hard mount the T248 to a wheel stand or a cockpit, which is something that was missing on the T150 Pro. The T248 also comes with a 3-pedal board, which is improved when compared to the already great one bundled with the T150 Pro. While most of the board is made out of plastic, the pedals themselves are metal and make the entire thing look and feel more premium. The pattern on the board helps with keeping your feet firmly planted and the entire thing feels durable enough to withstand many high-octane races. Now, while I'll talk later about how they perform, I'll mention here that the force required to push on the pedals and the amount of rubber on the bottom won't be sufficient to keep the board in place. If you don't have a dedicated stand, it's almost a must to put this one against the wall or on something with a bit more grip if you don't want to push it or yourself away. In terms of performance and as far as entry-level wheels go, the T248 feels great to use whether you're playing on the supported PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 or the PC. 900 degrees of rotation means you can really go all out in any race, with all movements being instantaneously translated to the game. The wheel can feel somewhat sluggish when it's returning to a center position, but this will be noticeable only if you ever used a more high-end wheel with a pure belt-driven system. Here, immersion into a race is achieved with the use of a hybrid drive system in combination with dynamic force feedback. This is basically a fancy way of saying that the T248 uses belts and gears to provide various levels of resistance depending on what's happening in the game you're playing. So bumps, sharp turns, jumps, crashes and other forces that you should feel while driving are all there, and the T248 does a great job of conveying them. Sure, as mentioned, the belt and gear system isn't perfect at providing the smoothest feel of turning the wheel, but you'll quickly stop noticing the gear notches once inside a high-stakes race, especially if this is your entry into the world of gaming wheels. I tested the force feedback in a couple of games and let me tell you, this thing can pack one hell of a punch. oftentimes more than other entry-level wheels I've used. This is a far cry from using a controller, with races suddenly becoming significantly harder, more intense, and of course, much more fun. Whether you're racing through the sunny roads of Forza Horizon or fighting for sheer survival on the narrow pathways of Dirt Rally, you'll definitely feel the speed, and what used to be simple jumps, overtakes and sharp turns now become heart-pounding experiences that they really should be. Of course, you can adjust the force feedback to your liking, either by switching between 3 different levels on the wheel itself, or by diving a bit deeper into the settings when playing on the PC. This will sometimes be required, since not all games with wheel support are created equal. With some, like Dirt Rally 2 on Assetto Corsa, you can just plug the wheel in and expect realistic force feedback and handling, while with others, mostly arcade titles like Forza Horizon or Need for Speed, you'll need to play around with some settings in order to be able to decently perform in races. Now, as opposed to the T150 Pro, the T248 doesn't have a loud internal fan. But unfortunately, it makes up for this by having insanely loud gear shifters. If you aren't willing to shell out an additional $200 for a full-blown shifter, you'll be stuck with these, and let me tell you, they are probably the loudest gear shifters in any racing wheel ever. Here, have a listen for yourself. Yeah, you can somewhat get past it by having some solid sound isolating headphones, but that's definitely not ideal, especially for your family members or roommates. The last thing of note here are the pedals, and as mentioned, they are an improvement over previous sets from Thrustmaster. Entry-level wheels usually feature 2 pedal sets, but this one also has a clutch pedal in case you have a shifter you want to use with it. The resistance on each pedal is quite realistic, with the clutch and brake being harder to press on, while the gas is quite easy to bottom out. The brake even comes with an additional spring that provides an even higher level of resistance, but seeing as the stock spring already requires you to put the pedals against the wall, it probably won't be necessary for most people. You can even somewhat customize the position of each pedal, either to space them out or bring them closer to each other. All in all, a really solid pedal set that elevates the entire package above most entry-level competitors. Ultimately, the T248 caters to 2 types of gamers: the ones who are buying their very first racing wheel and the ones who are upgrading from really low-end ones. Whichever group you fall into, at a sensible price of $350 the T248 is a great choice and a full package that will enable you to enjoy racing to its fullest. And sure, you'll probably wake the neighbors with it, but due to the great force feedback, you'll also probably be too immersed into a race to really care. If you like what you've seen in this video, as always, the product link will be included in the description down below. And also, don't forget to like and subscribe to KeenGamer for more reviews just like this one.